Welcome to the Purpose-Based Retirement with certified financial planner Casey Weade. Casey is the president of Howard Bailey Financial.
Whatever risk you face during your retirement years, we've got a plan.
A published author and radio host.
It's not how much we make during the good times, it's how much we keep during those really bad times.
His advocacy for retirees and pre-retirees has made him a sought-after speaker and trusted financial leader.
And putting a real plan together.
This is the Purpose-Based Retirement.
Good to see you again. I am Lee Kelso here with Casey Weade, certified financial planner and the president of Howard Bailey Financial. We're going to begin the program today looking at an article that Casey wrote for Kiplinger's magazine that does really a nice job of explaining the basic principles of a purpose-based retirement and how it can help you sleep a lot better at night. Then we're going to be taking questions from our viewers, including a gentleman who's nearing retirement and is wondering, should I get out of the market? Things are pretty frothy right now. Is now the time to pull out? And then later, how to maximize your pension benefits. A lot to cover today. Casey, I want to start with your article for Kiplinger's. What's the main point you wanted to get across in this article?
Well, you know, I've asked the question about what retirement means to retirees for individuals all across the country as I've spoken at a lot of different events. And I've asked that question to thousands of different people. I want to ask you that same question right now. What does retirement mean to you? Whether that's one word or 5 words, what does retirement really mean to you? And I hear time and time again, I've heard people say it's spending time with my grandkids, it's flexibility, it's being able to get up when I want to get up, go to sleep when I want to go to sleep, and just do what I want to do when I want to do it. You know, the one thing that I've never heard anybody ever say, out of the thousands of answers that I've heard, I've never heard anyone ever say money. Money is what retirement's all about, or finances is what retirement is all about. That really should be the means to the end, right? We have the money so that we can accomplish that freedom, so we don't have to worry about those things anymore. But what I've found is you're sitting at home, you're watching this program right now talking about money for the next 30 minutes. And we do this every single Sunday, and we do it on the radio, and we also have done it at different events, and people continually tune in and listen, and that concerns me that there may be some concerns that you have about your money that's not enabling you to really live the retirement you want to live. And that means that you're not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning wondering what's going to happen in the stock market tomorrow, or what's going to happen in Syria, and what effect that's going to have on currencies, what effect that's going to have on oil prices. You shouldn't be concerned about those things during retirement, and that means that we have to go back to the drawing board and take you out of the way that you got to retirement and take you off that roller coaster so that you can really live the retirement you always dreamed. And that means thinking about things differently than you ever have.
That means getting a good hard grasp on some obstacles that all of us are going to face the retirement. And what are some of those obstacles?
Well, there's really 4 main obstacles that every single retiree will face. Now, we're all going to face different types of obstacles to a different degree, but these 4 things, every single retiree is going to face each one of these obstacles, again, to a different degree, depending on your individual situation. But we all have 4 of these things. We have 1, liquidity for emergencies. What do we do in case we have a major emergency? The grandkids have an emergency, we want to help them out, or we have a problem with our home, we have a problem with our car. How are we going to handle those emergencies? Then we have our income needs. And when we say our income needs, we're talking about that money you need to come in every single month that you have to have in order to make sure you don't have to go back to work and you can live without concern. And that's just not income for next year or the next 5 or 10 years. That's income for the rest of your life, so you can know that you're never going to run out of money. Then it comes to inflation, because not only do we need income to last a lifetime, but it typically has to be increasing income. So we're getting more and more income every year to keep up with inflation. Then we have to fill in the gaps with our estate. So on the estate side, we may want to leave a legacy, but we don't necessarily get to leave that legacy if it gets ate up in healthcare costs or tax costs. And so it's really those 4 things: liquidity, income, growth, estate planning, and we isolate each one of those things one at a time. It's about the risks that we're focusing on during retirement. You know, not the asset and growing the asset. Now it's about protecting that asset and making it last a lifetime. That's a different way of thinking than maybe you've been thinking for the last 10, 20, 30 years as you sat down and talked about what the next best stock was going to be for you to purchase so that you could get yourself to retirement. You're there, and now it's time to protect yourself.
One of the points that Casey makes in the article is that there's no such thing as the perfect investment for retirement. Now, put some more words behind that. Explain that.
Well, everybody's looking for the silver bullet for their retirement years, and that's led to this rise in variable annuity sales over the last 15 to 20 years as people want the perfect investment vehicle to take them into retirement, and there really is no such thing. Everything has pros and cons to it. I mean, literally everything has pros and cons. I would almost venture to go as far as to say there aren't very many bad investments out there. They just are. There's pros and cons. However, you get this bias when you hop on the internet and you go to Kiplinger or Forbes, and that was one of the things that sparked this article for me, was when I went and I was looking to make sure I wasn't going to repeat anything else anybody had written already. I noticed that most of these articles have some type of bias built into them. One article I pull up and it says, well, annuities are the best thing for your retirement years. The next one says you should never put money into an annuity. The next one says you should buy mutual funds and they're a great way to diversify your portfolio. The next one says we should never buy mutual funds because of the fees and expenses. These are really just investment vehicles, and we have to figure out what our risks are, and then we use them with knowing the pros and cons to make the best decision so we can step into retirement. If we don't do that, then it's kind of like having one of those old duck boats from World War II, right? You get on one of those things, it's uncomfortable. I think it was mostly standing room only. Yeah. Very expensive, I might add. Very slow on water, very slow on land. It's not a vehicle you'd want to drive every single day. However, people do that with their mutual fund portfolio. I say, what's this money for? Ask yourself, what's that life savings for? And you might say, well, it's for emergencies, it's for income, it's for inflation, and hopefully it takes care of health care if there's anything left. That's not a plan. That's an I hope so plan, if you ask me.
So how does the purpose-based retirement concept apply and solve those problems?
Well, we're isolating each one of those risks, again, one at a time, so that when you walk into our office for your third meeting, as we're implementing that plan, we've went through our first meeting, our interview session, our strategy session. Now we're implementing your purpose-based retirement. You can finally look at the TV, look at the whiteboard, look at your written plan and go, okay, I've got all my bases covered. We've actually put a plan together for each one of these major risks so that I can step into retirement without concern of major healthcare issues or income running out of money during retirement or inflation or currency problems. We've put a plan together for each one of those major risks, but most advisors are still focused on the return on your money and the next best investment. And I find that a lot of individuals that haven't put this together are now jumping from one financial advisor to the next financial advisor because they're always looking for the next best thing, the next best way that they can get just a little bit more return out of their portfolio rather than really focusing on building a broad-based comprehensive plan.
All right, well, we're going to give you a shot to do just that right now. For the next 5 callers, we're going to offer a custom-designed, easy-for-you-to-understand financial review. It is a no-obligation, no-cost for this initial review, where we're going to help you run a fee report so you can untangle what it's costing you to work with your current planner or advisor. We're performing a tax analysis to show you how you could potentially reduce your taxes. We'll conduct a portfolio risk review to uncover unnecessary risks that you could be taking with that nest egg you've worked so hard for, and to create a customized lifetime income that Casey just mentioned is so important, using proven strategies and techniques to turbocharge the retirement ahead for you. So we're going to take all the guesswork out of financial planning for you. For the next 5 callers, that is, who call right now at 482-9559, a comprehensive financial review with no obligation. 482-9559, 482-9559. We're back with questions from our viewers in just a minute.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to send me an invitation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? Will you be able to play with me?
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
You need a plan for retirement to create the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. The first step is to tune into the Purpose-Based Retirement Radio Hour with your hosts, Casey Weade and Marshall Johnson, every Saturday morning at 11 and Sunday afternoon at 1 on 1190 WOWO and 107.5 FM.
Hey, look who showed up here today. It's Marshall Johnson, one of the vice presidents and a certified financial planner at Howard Bailey Financial. We're taking your questions, and we're going to start with Chuck in Waterloo. Go ahead, Chuck.
My wife and I are stepping into retirement in the next year or two. We are going to need about 6% of our portfolio every year for retirement income, and we are 62. I don't feel like we can afford the risk of the market anymore since we are so close. Is now the time to get out?
Well, Chuck, I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of retirees are feeling the same way, not just where the market is today, but seeing individuals over the last 10 years, we've seen good times and we've seen bad times, and retirees are always concerned about the market, especially after the last 15, 20 years, where we've seen retirees lose half their life savings twice in major stock market crashes. So yes, there's reason to be concerned, but I don't want you stepping into this point in your life and going, you know what, I just can't afford the risk anymore. Well, why are you saying that you can't afford the risk anymore? It's probably because you say, well, I'm out of time. I need that money today. I'm out of time. Well, however, you're not out of time on your entire life savings. What you need to do at this time is you need to buy yourself some time. And given where market valuations are today, it does make sense to hold some additional cash for future opportunities. And in case we have a major pullback, you have some place that you can go pull some cash out and not have to worry about dipping in and selling when the market's down. And so first, maybe that's setting aside cash of 12 to 24 months of additional cash. Maybe alternatively, you're setting aside a guaranteed income stream for 5 years, maybe 10 years, and buying yourself some time to add some equities to the back end of your plan. Or maybe you're just building in a baseline of income. So maybe you're saying, this is the amount of income I just can't live without. You've got your play checks and your paychecks, if you will. Maybe we're going to guarantee and take a portion of that portfolio and guarantee those paychecks, so that even if the market's down, we can say, okay, I'm going to go a year or two without my play checks. And those play checks may be coming from at-risk investments, dividend strategies, real estate strategies, in order to support those paychecks that you're getting on guaranteed income. So let's say there's 3 different strategies that you could be potentially taking. You could be setting some cash aside to help fill in those gaps. You could be guaranteeing a small portion of your income to take care of the next 5 or 10 years, or you could be guaranteeing some type of baseline income need for the rest of your life. But needing 6% a year in the interest rate environment we're in today, I'm going to venture to say, not knowing your entire situation, I would say it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to take everything out of the market and be able to cover all of your risks. At a 3% growth rate, which would be roughly what you could get in an absolutely fixed place today, at 3%, pulling 6% per year, those funds will last about 23 years. That doesn't factor in inflation, that doesn't factor in rising healthcare costs or long-term care needs, which may mean that you need more income or you need to carve some assets out to set aside for those needs.
And I was going to say, Lee, I think that's a great response, Casey. And it's when somebody has that mentality of should I get out now, or what? If you're having that push and pull of getting in or getting out of the market, it just means you don't have that income plan. So you really outlined a couple of good strategies. But really, that's kind of been my story, is coming from that accumulation world where everything's at risk at all times. I saw that need going through 2008, so I can sympathize with Chuck's idea of, geez, should I get out?
Sure.
Get an income plan, and it's going to reduce all that stress.
Chuck, I hope that helps you out. Let's move ahead to Julie up in Spencerville. Go right ahead, Julie.
My husband and I just retired a couple of years ago, and we have always wanted a lake home. We know we are going to need our 401ks for retirement income in the future, but we don't need it all right now. Can we take a portion of those funds to buy a lake home and put them back in our portfolio when we need them?
Well, Julie, I'm glad you asked the question, because there's a lot of lakes around here. A lot of people want to do that. We step into retirement, maybe we want to spend a little bit more time at the lake. Maybe you grew up around the lake and now you want to go back to your roots. So I completely understand. However, what I want you to pay close attention to here is the taxes you're going to have to pay if you take a large distribution from a 401k or an IRA. For instance, if you need $350,000, you could pay upwards of 30% or more in taxes. So you may have to take $500,000 distribution from that 401k in order to net, say, $300,000 to put towards the house. So be very cautious on those taxes, where you may pay upwards of 30% or more in taxes by taking those large distributions. You may be able to cut those taxes in half, meaning you can buy twice as much house if you take those distributions out over time. And taking those distributions out over time might mean that you take on a small mortgage for that property. I know that we wouldn't typically recommend you have a mortgage or take on debt during your retirement years, but if this is something something that's really important with you and you really want to make sure that you get that lake house and that's your retirement dream and you're going to do it no matter what, then I'd say let's take it out slowly. Maybe let's take on a 10 or 15-year mortgage so that we can pay it down slowly, take distributions out of that 401k so we don't have to take too big of a tax hit.
Yeah, and look at redirecting some of those savings too, because if she's maxing out her 401k but is only getting a 5% match, maybe she's built enough in the retirement account so we can redirect some of those savings into that house, to, like you said, take on a small mortgage, so
Sure.
you're repurposing those dollars.
Right, maybe get that started before we step into retirement.
Yeah.
We're going to move ahead now to Chris in Huntertown, and you have a life change event happening. Chris, tell us about it.
I'm 55 years old, and my company is laying me off in the next couple of months. I'm not currently ready for retirement, but I don't have anything else lined up right now. What should I do to hold myself over until I find another job?
Well, I think there's a couple things for you to look into. I think it's a sad circumstance, and it's one that a lot of people went through over the last 15, 20 years through different recessionary periods. And one thing I would tell you to do, that I've told others to do in the past, is look into what you may be owed. You may actually be owed some money through that company. Maybe you have some back pay, maybe you have some vacation pay. If you have some vacations that you haven't taken, you may be able to get paid out some of that vacation pay. Maybe you have expense reimbursement for maybe fuel or whatever that may be. They still owe you that back expense reimbursement. So maybe that's a place that you can get some extra cash. Also, maybe look into severance packages or severance policies that they also might carry for you. Now, not required in the state of Indiana. Some states do require a severance policy. However, we don't have that here in the state of Indiana, but some companies still do have severance packages that are part of their hiring procedures. So make sure that that may be an avenue as well. Of course, you can always file for unemployment, given that you were this was part of a layoff, you didn't quit, and so we can look into unemployment benefits. And also, if you need to supplement those unemployment benefits with 401k distributions after the age of 55 with 401ks, you don't have to worry about that 10% distribution penalty like with IRAs. So you may be able to take some distributions from your 401k, not worrying about that penalty tax, and you're in a very low tax rate environment because you don't have a whole lot of taxable income. It may even make some sense to do some Roth conversions during this period of time while your taxes are low. So look at it as an opportunity, and I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, Chris, I would say, it's a difficult situation, but make the best of it. You can look into those Roth conversions. As Casey mentioned, there's very few times in life when income does drop like that, but there's a lot of hiring going on in Northeast Indiana, so hopefully you can get a good job.
Yeah, Chris, that's a tough situation to be in. If you have a question, maybe we'll feature it on the program in a future episode. Just email to info@howardbailey.com. For our next 5 callers, we're offering a custom-designed, easy-to-understand financial review I want to tell you about. It's no obligation or cost for this initial review, where we'll run a fee report to help you untangle what it's costing you to work with your current planner or advisor. We'll perform a tax analysis to show you how you could potentially reduce your taxes, conduct a portfolio risk review to uncover unnecessary risks that may be lurking there with your nest egg, and to create a customized lifetime income plan using proven strategies and techniques that could turbocharge the retirement you have ahead. We're going to take the guesswork out of financial planning for you. For the next 5 callers who call right now at 482-9559, it's a comprehensive financial review at no obligation. 482-9559, 482-9559. Here's our question of the day. What was the growth rate in the U.S. economy in 2016? Was it as low as 1.9% or way up there at 12.25%? The answer is coming up.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. Smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.
You need a plan for retirement to create the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. The first step is to tune into the Purpose-Based Retirement Radio Hour with your hosts, Casey Weade and Marshall Johnson, every Saturday morning at 11 and Sunday afternoon at 1 on 1190 WOWO and 107.5 FM.
Well, you guys are pretty sharp, so I'm guessing you know the answer to our question of the day. It had to do with the growth rate of the U.S. economy in 2016. The choices are on your screen. Casey, which one is correct?
Lee, unfortunately, the answer is A, 1.9%. That was the growth rate of the U.S. economy in 2016. You may be saying to yourself, well, that doesn't seem very high. My portfolio, my investments grew at a much higher rate throughout that year. For instance, all those numbers had some type of bearing on 2016. One, the 4% number is what President Trump has promised moving forward during his presidency. We also saw 9.84% was the growth rate of the S&P 500 in 2016. And if we throw the dividends and reinvest those dividends in the S&P, we see a real total return in the S&P 500 of 12.25%. So we had great returns, especially over the last several years. We've seen great returns in the stock market, really spectacular, especially in comparison throughout history. However, we're still seeing sub 3% growth rates. And we have not, this has been the longest subpar 3% growth rate year over year that we've seen throughout history. We're going on over a decade of time periods when we've seen over the last 10 years plus of GDP growth rates under 3%. The longest period of time, second longest period of time throughout history is 1930, 1933, 4 years. So now we have to ask ourselves, if we're seeing such huge returns in the stock market but such slow growth in our economy, where is that growth really coming from? Are we seeing a bubble in the S&P 500 or are we seeing authentic growth in the markets? And this is why if you're looking at a major pension decision today, I encourage you to step back, take your time before, especially if you have a lump sum option and you're thinking about taking that and giving it to your advisor who said, hey, we can do better in the markets because look, it's averaged 7% historically. You may want to think twice and really take some time making that pension decision. I'm seeing a lot of people walk in our office. I had 3 just this past week that came in to visit with us about a major pension decision they were getting ready to make. Either they were making a decision on taking a joint and survivor benefit or a single life benefit, or they're making some major decision on taking a lump sum or sticking with a pension. I'm going to walk you through some things here today that will absolutely help you make that decision moving forward. So the first thing we're going to talk about is something called pension maximization. For John and Jane, let's say they're both age 60. This is someone we implemented a plan for in the last 12 months. They had 2 decisions. They had a $2,000 a month benefit or a $1,700 a month benefit. If they took the $2,000 a month benefit and something happened to John, then Jane would be left with nothing. If they took $1,700 a month, it cost them $300 a month. But if something now happened to John, that pension would continue for the rest of Jane's life as well. So think of it like income insurance, if you will. Now, taking a look at these different numbers, we can see at age 60, we get $2,000 a month for the single benefit or $1,700 a month for the joint benefit. And that comes at a cost of $300 a month. Now, how much did it take to replace that pension if something were to happen to John? Because really what we're buying here is life insurance through the pension company. So if it costs $300 a month, what we need to replace that $1,700 a month is $366,000. Now, 10 years from now, life expectancy has went down. Now we only need $300,000 to replace that pension. At age 80, life expectancy, we need about $170,000 to replace that pension. So if that's the case, we would think that if we need less in death benefit, we would see our costs go down. However, that cost stays exactly the same every single year. We could instead go and buy our own private pension insurance, find a more efficient way to purchase that insurance. So instead here, we take the single life pension of $2,000 a month and we use a portion of that to purchase a life insurance policy. And now that death benefit goes down over time. As such, the premium costs go down over time, and it puts more money back in your pocket and also enables you to cancel those policies and really go back to that single life pension should you need to. Not to mention, now we're guaranteed to leave something behind for the next generation. We don't have to worry about that annuitization where we don't leave any of our hard-earned benefits behind for the next generation. Then we have an alternative. What if we had Jim and Jackie now that not only had those two same pension benefits we saw from the previous couple, but now they can also take a lump sum of $340,000. Now they have to determine before they take that $340,000 lump sum what type of rate of return they'll need on that lump sum in order to get that same level of income as they would have if they took the pension. Now if they took the joint and survivor pension at $1,700 a month, if they were going to take that $340,000 out and take $1,700 a month from it, then at age 80 at life expectancy roughly, they would need to make about 2.5% a year on that lump sum. It should be very doable even in this low interest rate environment. Well beyond life expectancy at age 90, they would need to create about 5% a year. And that's just going to mean they need a higher rate of return every year the longer that they live in order to make that money last as long as possible. So here's some things to think about when it comes to your pension. One, what is the purpose of that pension? What do you hope that it accomplishes for you? Do you need the income? Don't you need the income? If we don't need the income, then maybe we should take the lump sum or think about other ways to use that pension income. Number two, add value. How much value is that pension really worth? We don't often take into consideration how much value our pension's worth. We just say it's $1,300 a month. We don't think about what the real lump sum equivalent of that is. And that can mean a lot to that decision. Number three, take a look at the cost of the insurance you're getting through the pension company and see if you can do better elsewhere. And lastly, if you're going to take a lump sum, make sure you consider how much rate of return it's going to take to meet those goals, and you don't just assume that your financial advisor is going to be able to do better than the pension.
You know, Casey, my main takeaway from all of that is pretty simple, and that is it's a huge decision, one that I'm going to make once in my life. I want some professional assistance.
It makes a big difference to sit down with someone that specializes in income planning that does this on a daily basis. This is what we focus on at Howard Bailey Financial, is helping people make these pension decisions, Social Security decisions, and income decisions.
And that's why I want to share with you this. For the next 5 callers right now, we're going to custom design for you an easy to understand financial review. There is no obligation or cost for this initial review at all, where we're going to run a fee report that helps you determine exactly what it's costing you to work with your current planner. We're going to take a look at the tax analysis to show you how you could potentially reduce your taxes. We'll conduct a portfolio risk review to uncover unnecessary risks you may be having with your nest egg, and create a customized lifetime income plan to help you turbocharge your retirement. All of the guesswork, we're taking it off the plate, conducting this no obligation financial review for you. So for the next 5 callers, you dial right now, 482-9559, 482-9559. It's a comprehensive financial review with no obligation. Again, that number is 482-9559. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time around, and you can always find more information about the program at howardbailey.com, or thepurposebasedretirement.com is where you'll find a copy of Casey's new book. We'll see you next week.